Let's talk about what really happens when people realize they can no longer control you. They don't disappear. Instead, they switch tactics, and one of the first things they reach for is manipulation. Some people thrive on control. They want to influence your decisions, direct your actions, and shape your behavior to fit their needs. But when they see that you're independent and not easily swayed, they don't simply back down. They shift gears. Rather than use obvious commands or demands, they begin to manipulate through emotional pressure. They may try to make you feel guilty, obligated, or ashamed for saying no. They might use guilt trips like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me," or they flatter you to win your cooperation. "You're so good at this, I don't know what I'd do without you." If that fails, they often create urgency or play the victim to make you feel responsible for their emotions. But here's the truth, it's never about mutual respect. It's about keeping you under their influence without appearing controlling. This is where Stoic wisdom offers strength. Lao Tzu once said, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." True strength isn't about dominating others, it's about remaining in control of your own emotions and decisions. Manipulators thrive on emotional reactions. They want you to feel guilty, doubtful, or afraid. But the moment you recognize their tactics and choose not to react, you take away their power. It becomes like a chess game. Every move they make is designed to corner you emotionally. But if you remain calm, stay observant, and refuse to move according to their plan, they lose. I remember someone who once tried to guilt trip me into doing something I wasn't comfortable with. When I calmly said no, they responded, "Wow, I thought we were closer than that." For a moment, I felt the urge to explain myself, but instead I paused and replied, "I know what you're doing." That was the end of it. They never tried again. Manipulation only works if you engage. When you stop defending yourself, stop explaining, and stop feeling responsible for someone else's emotions, you win. Control yourself. Stand firm. Your choices are yours alone. Now let's talk about one of the lowest tactics people use when they realize they can't control you. They spread lies. When they can no longer influence you directly, they often turn to deception. They twist the truth, distort your words, and try to turn others against you. This isn't about honesty, it's about control through reputation. People who spread false stories don't want truth. They want to damage your credibility, so others will doubt your judgment, your values, and your intentions. It's a coward strategy. They hide behind whispers and half-truths because they can't face your strength head-on. But here's the key, the more you react, the more power you give them. Trying to fight every rumor, explain every detail, or defend yourself constantly just spreads the mess further. Think of it like someone throwing mud at you. If you flail and fight, you get covered in it. But if you stand still, let it dry, and brush it off, you walk away clean. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your shield. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are unaffected by what is said, you have already won." The less you care about lies, the less damage they do. When you stay calm and focused on your integrity, the truth reveals itself over time. I once experienced this personally. Someone I trusted began spreading false stories about me. At first, I wanted to clear my name to go to every person and set the record straight. But I stopped. I chose to stay consistent in my actions. I let my daily behavior speak louder than their rumors. Eventually, the truth surfaced. The people who mattered saw who I really was, and the person who lied, they exposed themselves, because lies have short lives, but character endures. So how do you deal with people like this? First, refuse to engage. Silence takes away their stage. Second, let your actions speak. Over time, truth is always stronger than words. And finally, remember this, anyone who believes lies without asking your side was never truly on your side to begin with. Protect your peace, speak through actions, not arguments, and trust that the truth will always outlast the noise. Let's look at one of the most manipulative strategies people use when they can no longer control you. They play the victim. Instead of accepting responsibility for their actions, they flip the narrative. Suddenly, they're the ones who've been hurt, and you're made out to be the villain. Why do they do this? Because if they can't control you directly, they'll try to control how others see you. By exaggerating the situation, twisting facts, or leaving out key details, they gather sympathy. They want to appear innocent, misunderstood, or even wounded, all while silently painting you as the aggressor. This tactic is not about fairness or truth. It's about avoiding accountability. The more you try to defend yourself, the more they spin it. Suddenly, your explanations sound like excuses, and your attempts to set the record straight make you seem guilty. Imagine someone putting on an award-worthy performance. If you step in to argue, you become part of the show. But if you stay quiet and calm, the act eventually collapses on its own. People who fake victimhood thrive on reaction. Take that away and they're left exposed. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes essential. Epictetus once said, "A wise man does not allow others to dictate his emotions." That's the power you need: emotional control. When you respond with calm detachment, you take away their ability to manipulate you. I once knew someone who did this often. Whenever they crossed a line and I spoke up, they'd act shocked, spin the story, and tell others I was being harsh. At first, I wanted to explain to clear things up. But then I realized there's no point in arguing with someone who's performing. So I stayed silent. I kept being myself. And slowly the truth became clear. People started to notice the pattern, and the sympathy they once gave turned into skepticism. Here's how you handle it: don't argue. Don't defend yourself to everyone. Let their behavior speak for itself. Focus on your actions and your peace of mind, because in the end, truth needs no defense, and real character always reveals itself. One of the most calculated moves people make when they can no longer control you is isolation. Instead of confronting you directly, they work behind your back, planting doubts, spreading subtle lies, and turning others against you. Their goal is simple: cut you off from your support system and make you feel alone. Why would someone do this? Because people who crave control understand that independence is a threat. When you have strong relationships and loyal allies, they can't manipulate you. So they seek to dismantle your connections. They might say things like, "Are you sure you can trust them?" or "They've changed lately, haven't they?" It starts with small comments, but over time it turns into tension, misunderstanding, and distance. The tactic is clear: divide and conquer. The more isolated you become, the easier it is for them to regain influence over your thoughts, emotions, and decisions. Think of it like predators in the wild. A wolf doesn't attack the herd head-on. It waits until one animal is separated. That's when it strikes. Manipulators act the same way. They won't challenge you when you're surrounded by people who uplift and protect you. They wait until you're unsure, unsupported, and vulnerable. But once you recognize this strategy, you can outsmart it. And that's where Stoic wisdom becomes your armor. Seneca once said, "Associate only with those who improve you. Avoid those who would pull you down. Your strength lies in your connections." Real friends don't believe gossip. True allies don't turn on you after one false story. I once experienced this firsthand. Someone in my life began to quietly sabotage my relationships. They started with subtle comments, casting doubt without evidence. Then they exaggerated my words, twisted my intentions, and made others question my loyalty. At first, I was tempted to confront everyone and explain myself, but I stopped. Instead of chasing rumors, I invested in the relationships that truly mattered. I stayed consistent, honest, and focused on my values. And it worked. Over time, the truth surfaced. The people who knew my character saw through the manipulation. The ones who turned against me were never meant to stay. The lies faded, the real connections remained. Here's how to handle people who try to isolate you. First, stay calm. Reacting emotionally only gives them more fuel. Second, nurture your genuine relationships. Keep showing up with integrity and let your actions speak for themselves. And finally, don't chase those who walk away. If someone is so easily influenced by lies, they were never on your side to begin with. In the end, those who fear your independence will try to isolate you, but they cannot break what is firmly grounded. Stay steady, stay connected, and always remember, real bonds don't dissolve under pressure, they grow stronger. Another subtle but powerful tactic people use when they can't control you is challenging your confidence. They won't confront you directly or argue openly. Instead, they chip away at your certainty. They make quiet comments that cause you to second-guess your decisions. They question your choices, your direction, and your abilities, not to help but to make you feel unsure. Why? Because if they can plant seeds of doubt in your mind, they gain influence again. When you start hesitating or seeking their validation, you're no longer standing firm. You begin to lean on their opinion and their approval. That's how they slip back into control through your own uncertainty. This is how it usually works. Imagine walking across a sturdy bridge. At first, you feel confident, but someone nearby keeps saying, "Are you sure it's safe? What if it collapses?" The longer they talk, the more you begin to doubt the bridge, not because it's weak, but because they made you question it. That's exactly how self-doubt operates. It doesn't come from truth. It comes from someone else's suggestion repeated just enough to wear you down. People who challenge your confidence this way often disguise it as concern. They say things like, "Are you really ready for that?" or "I'm just trying to help." But their tone, timing, and intent reveal the truth. They're not trying to support you. They're trying to shake you. This is where Stoic wisdom gives you solid ground. Epictetus once said, "A person's worth is not determined by external approval." Real confidence doesn't come from other people believing in you. It comes from you believing in yourself. The moment you stop explaining your choices and start owning them, you become untouchable. I remember someone who constantly questioned my plans. Every time I made a move, they asked, "Are you sure about that?" At first, I felt the need to justify everything. I wanted to explain why I knew what I was doing. But eventually, I saw the pattern. They weren't offering insight. They were undermining my direction. So I stopped. I simply answered with confidence, "Yes, I'm sure." No justification, no debate. And just like that, they had nothing left to challenge. Here's how to respond. First, trust your process. If you've made a decision with clarity and intention, don't let someone else's fear or doubt shake you. Second, stop over-explaining. The more you defend yourself, the more room you give them to poke holes. And finally, remember that their doubt is not your truth. At the end of the day, your confidence is your power. People will test it, question it, and try to weaken it, but only if you let them. Stand tall, trust yourself, and don't let anyone's uncertainty become your own. Let's look at one of the oldest and most effective tactics people use when they can't control you with logic or manipulation. They provoke you emotionally. When nothing else works, they push your buttons. They say things designed to frustrate you, insult you, or make you lose your temper. Not because they care about the issue, but because they want you to react. Here's the truth. The moment you snap, they win. They gain control by making you look unstable, emotional, or aggressive. They'll turn around and say, "See, this is why I can't deal with you," or "Look how sensitive you are." Suddenly you become the bad guy, and they walk away looking calm and rational. Think of your emotions like a flame and their words like wind. If you respond with anger, the fire grows out of control. But if you stay calm, the wind dies down and the fire goes out. Your calmness is not weakness, it's power. When you refuse to respond the way they expect you, take away their only weapon. This is exactly where Stoic wisdom becomes your greatest advantage. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That's the key. Do not mirror their behavior. Do not give them the satisfaction of seeing you lose your cool. Stay in control. When you respond with patience and silence, you become untouchable. I remember a time when someone tried to bait me into an argument. They brought up things from the past, exaggerated my words, and even insulted me directly. I could feel the anger rising, but instead of reacting, I took a breath, smiled, and simply said, "Interesting perspective." Nothing more. They were stunned. They expected a fight, but I gave them nothing. That's when I realized emotional control is true strength. When you don't respond, you don't lose your power. So how do you handle people like this? First, recognize when someone is trying to provoke you. Ask yourself, is this about resolving something or is this just a trap? Second, pause. Take a breath before you speak. Buy yourself a moment to respond with reason, not emotion. And finally, walk away when necessary. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some people feed on conflict. Don't give them the attention they crave. In the end, your emotions are yours to protect. If someone is trying to provoke you, stay calm, stay grounded, and let their attempts fall flat. Because the strongest person in the room is never the loudest, it's the one who refuses to be controlled. Let's talk about a tactic that can be both frustrating and revealing. When people can't control you and they can't beat you, sometimes they try to copy you. At first, it might seem flattering or coincidental. You take a bold step and suddenly they do something similar. You bring a new idea forward and somehow they start presenting it like it was theirs. But eventually the pattern becomes obvious. They aren't competing anymore. They're imitating. They don't have their own direction, so they borrow yours. Their goal isn't to grow or evolve. It's to catch up to your success without doing the work that built it. Here's the truth. No matter how closely someone imitates you, they will always remain one step behind. Imitation may work for a while, but it can never replace originality. Think of it like a shadow in the sun. The shadow follows the sun, but can never create its own light. Imitation lacks life depth and authenticity. It's just a reflection of someone else's real effort. This is where Stoic wisdom puts things into perspective. Seneca once said, "Character, not imitation, defines a person." You are not just your actions, you are your intention, your growth, and your experience. Someone may copy your words, your style, or even your ideas, but they can never copy your mindset, your discipline, or the path that brought you to where you are. I once knew someone who copied almost everything I did. If I made progress in one area, they followed. If I changed directions, they tried to keep up. At first, I felt frustrated, like my efforts were being stolen. But then I realized something important. The more they copied, the more it showed they had nothing of their own to offer. One day I made a change they didn't expect. And just like that, they were lost. Because when you're always following someone else, you never learn how to lead. So how do you handle people like this? First, stop worrying about being copied. Their imitation is actually proof that you're ahead. Second, keep evolving. The more you grow, the harder it is for them to catch up. Keep changing, improving, and expanding beyond what they can see. And finally, don't let their behavior distract you. Your focus should stay on your path, not on someone chasing behind you. At the end of the day, copies fade, but authenticity endures. Keep being yourself. Keep leading with confidence. Let the imitators fall behind, because no one can replicate what makes you truly unique. Now let's talk about a hard truth. Some people don't support you. They only pretend to. They smile when you succeed, nod when you share your goals, and even say things like, "I'm happy for you." But behind that smile, they're keeping score. They're not waiting for your success. They're quietly waiting for you to fall. Why? Because your growth threatens them. Your ambition, your courage, your progress. It makes them uncomfortable. It highlights what they're not doing, what they haven't achieved, and what they've given up on. So instead of being inspired by your journey, they root for your failure in silence. These are the people who say, "I hope it works out," but add, "We'll see." They say you've come far, but follow it with, "Let's just hope you can maintain it." Their support is filled with doubt. It's passive-aggressive. It's rooted in jealousy and fear, not love or loyalty. Here's the truth. Some people don't clap when you rise because they're hoping you fall. And when you stumble, they're the first to whisper, "I knew it." They act concerned, but deep down they feel satisfied. Your failure validates their belief that taking risks isn't worth it, that staying safe, staying small was the right choice. But this is where your mindset matters more than ever. Stoic philosophy teaches us not to waste energy on those who hope for our downfall. As Epictetus once said, "Do not waste energy on those who hope for your downfall." Your focus should be on growth, not proving people wrong. The goal is not to silence doubters. The goal is to rise so far they no longer matter. I remember a time when I shared a big goal with someone I thought was in my corner. They smiled and said, "That's ambitious. I just hope it's not too much for you." At first I brushed it off, but later I realized every word from them was laced with disgust. They never truly believed in me. They just wanted to be close enough to witness my fall. And one day when things didn't go as planned, they were quick to remind me, "See, I told you it wouldn't be easy." That's when I stopped sharing my journey with them. I stopped giving them a front row seat to my life. I focused on my own path and kept building in silence. Eventually I succeeded, and their silence spoke louder than any of their fake encouragement ever had. So how do you deal with people who secretly want you to fail? First, recognize the signs. If someone disappears during your wins but reappears during your struggles, take note. Second, stop trying to prove anything to them. Your success is not for their approval. It's for your growth. And finally, let your results do the talking. Rise in silence, move with intention, and let them sit in the very doubt they once threw at you. At the end of the day, your success is your responsibility. Don't give anyone the satisfaction of watching you break. Instead, become so grounded in your purpose, so clear in your vision, that no amount of silent hatred can shake you. Some people wait for your downfall like it's entertainment. Don't give them a show. Succeed anyway. In life, one of the most important things you can do is learn to protect your peace from those who seek to control, manipulate, or undermine you. As the story of Adam teaches, not everyone will celebrate your strength or independence. Some will try to twist your confidence into arrogance, your silence into guilt, and your growth into a threat. The moment you stop being easy to manipulate, people may react with subtle psychological tactics, guilt-tripping, rumor spreading, playing the victim, isolating you, or even waiting for you to fail. That's why it's crucial to stay rooted in self-awareness. You must trust your choices and stop explaining yourself to those who don't deserve an explanation. Confidence isn't about convincing others, it's about standing firm in your values even when others doubt you. Let your character speak louder than your words. Remain calm in the face of provocation and avoid unnecessary battles. The strongest person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who refuses to be emotionally controlled. Instead of reacting, observe. Instead of defending, stay silent. And when people copy you, take it as a sign that you're ahead. Keep evolving. Let your success be quiet, your resilience be visible, and your energy be sacred. Most of all, don't waste your time proving anything to those who secretly root for your failure. Your only job is to keep rising. Let the doubters sit in their shadows while you create your own light. Stay focused, stay grounded, and remember, freedom always comes with resistance. But it's that very resistance that confirms you are on the right path. Protect your peace, move with intention, and never let anyone's attempt to control you distract you from becoming who you were meant to be.